Welcome to Authors Revealed. I'm Becky Anderson. I am thrilled. We have Dick Portillo with his debut book. It's a biography and business book and a great adventure. It's called Out of the Doghouse. This book will make you drool. Well, Dick, welcome to Naperville and to Anderson.
Thanks for having me.
I know you've been to. Well, I know you've been to Naperville before.
Oh yeah. Well, we have a couple of units in Naperville.
That's right. But this is so exciting, your debut book, and we're so lucky. This is your first number one signing. So we're going to call this the launch event.
The launch of Portillo's book signing.
Right. Out of the Doghouse. Right. I love the title, and I love the jacket. Seeing it when I first saw it, it makes me drool. It makes me want to go to one of the locations. But this is really exciting. This book is out to finally hear your story. And a lot of us know the story that you started with, the one, the Doghouse. In Villa Park, yeah. In Villa Park. But we don't know all the rest. And this
you gotta
huge.
Buy the book.
That's right. But
you'll know the whole story.
But to know this journey, it's quite a journey too.
Yes, it was.
And what an incredible success story.
It's the American dream. I can't believe it. Who would have thought in April of 1963, a young couple, 23 and 20 years old, started with their life. All we had was $1,100. Right. That was my investment, and another $1,100 by my brother, which I bought him out in 4 or 5 months after we opened, because it just wasn't enough business. $1,100 to grow into the chain, probably the most exciting chain, the most exciting brand in the country, I believe, and I might be a little.
Well, I think it's. When you travel around the country, just trying to find things that even come close to what Portillo can do, and not only the food but the service and just the feeling that you get when you walk into a Portillo's.
It's exciting. It's an experience.
It is.
Selling food is only part of the restaurant business. I believe that sincerely that. It's the experience that you get. That's going to separate the men from the boys, and that's what's going to make it successful or not. Yes, the food has to be good. There's no question about it. Right. You can't be successful in the restaurant business with mediocre food even today, because there's so much competition. If you think about it, the restaurant industry is probably the most competitive industry in the United States. Think about what's more competitive.
Well, and it's such a tough business too.
Yeah. Oh God, it is a tough business. And when you walk out your door, you can walk straight ahead, go left, right, go backwards. You're going to run into all kinds of restaurants, anything you want. That's right. And most people are giving things away. Then what makes Portillo's so successful? What makes Portillo's a brand that so many people are trying to copy, but nobody has done it so far?
No, not even close.
Because I call it in the book, I call it a moat.
Yeah, the moat. I wanted to ask you about the moat. I love this theory of yours.
Let's say that this is a castle in the medieval times. Okay, that's Portillo's castle. Portillo's. In the medieval times, they had a moat around that. For what reason? To protect the enemy from getting to the castle. Let's say the enemy is competition. The moat is the complexity and the uniqueness of Portillo's that makes it very, very difficult. Why has Portillo's been around so long? And history has shown that when somebody gets an idea, a good idea, so many people jump on the bandwagon and try to copy it. And that has happened. Yeah. So many people have tried to copy Portillo's. But it's very, very complex. We're not in the hot dog business. The hot dog business was the trailer. We sell 2 kinds of chicken, 2 kinds of fish, 2 kinds of sausage, over 200,000 pounds of Italian beef a week, over 100 tons of Italian beef a week, and at certain times of the year, December and Christmas time and January, with shipping and everything, it'll be like 240,000 pounds. Wow,
that's incredible.
That's a lot of cows, man.
Yeah.
And I have an interesting cow story. When we opened up in California, I was wiping the tables.
I read this in the book.
Guy comes up and he said, "You work here?" Yes, sir. He says, that Italian beef. He says, "That from an Italian cow?" So it's a regional, Italian beef is a regional food. Originated in the Chicago area, Chicago, for Italian immigrants that and got the beef and they put various spices in it and put it in French bread. That's it. That's how it started. So it's not all over the country. A lot of it is now, thanks to Portillo's, because we ship to all 50 states of the United States.
Yeah. And what state orders the most, do you think?
Oh, I know what they are.
No,
the states that we moved to.
Okay. All right. So you've got them hooked on this. Yeah.
The states were California, Arizona, and Florida. Okay. Because there's so many Chicagoland transplants there.
That makes sense.
My secretary, Patty Sullivan, called Arizona and California the farthest western suburb of Chicago. And so I took that from her.
Well, and when you come from Chicago, you just know Portillo's, you know. And it is so incredible when you do think of trying to get some great food that's fast with great service. There's only one that comes to mind. It really, you really have captured that.
I'm so proud of that. I can't begin to tell you how excited I am about that. Yeah. We've come a long way. Like I said, it is the American dream. And I was very fortunate that I had somebody behind me that didn't complain, my wife. Yeah. About that anyway. When I first had the idea, I came home and I says, honey, how important? All she wanted was a white picket fence in the suburbs. That's all she wanted. Mm-hmm. And I was doing a lot of crazy jobs, a lot of back-breaking jobs and that. And I said, how important is that home with the white picket fence? And she says, really important. Why? And I says, because I'd like to take the money that we save, our life savings, and build a hot dog stand. I won't tell you what she said because I would like to keep this family friendly. But she went crying to her mother and said, you know what my husband wants to do? He wants to take our life savings and build a hot dog stand. Thank you, Josephine. She said, sit down. He wants to do something with his life. You back him up. Right. And from that day on, she didn't complain about that anyway.
Yeah. Well, your mother-in-law knew that you had a dream, and she knew you were a hard worker.
She knew I was. Yeah. I still am.
Yeah. So I love the way you set up the book with the different chapters. You know, you started with the beginning. You give sort of an outline of starting with the first doghouse and moving into that. But I loved all the different chapters proceeding down to, you know, when you sold the business, but you just sort of spelled out the whole history of Portillo's. It was fascinating to read because it's not only a biography of you and your family, but it's a great business book. I mean, for people to read about. Well, I'm hoping
that you know, I know that there's people in this country, that men and women, that at one time or another in their life they wanted to go into business, but they're afraid, you know, afraid of failure. Hopefully this book will give them some encouragement in knowing that, number one, it's not going to be easy. Right. There's going to be sacrifices. There's going to be rejections. There's going to be sleepless nights. It's tough. The sacrifices are, you know, you're going to be working when everyone else is having fun, but you need a partner too. If you're going to be married, you better have a partner that's going to back you up. Because the worst thing that could have happened in my life, with the hours that I was putting in, is coming home and having a wife complain. Right. Yeah. That I don't know what would have happened if she would have, but she didn't. Yeah. Having that support is essential. Yeah. So what was the spark that made you want to write this book and tell your story? Well, my family and customers. You know, so many customers said, "Dick, you're living the American dream. You know, you should do it." And I contemplated. I thought, boy, you know, my family and wife might find it interesting, but would the public find it interesting? That remains to be seen. So let's see what happens. Well, I think you're probably hearing some pretty good reviews from people. I don't know. Yeah, you know, I think for sure. So, you know, you talk about in the book about your parents. You know, you are Mexican, Greek, and my father's Mexican, Spanish, and French. Yes, my mother's all Greek. Yeah, but they were both immigrants to the United States, and you grew up in part of the Cabrini Green. No, it was not called the Cabrini Green. It was Cabrini. At that time, it was called the Mother Frances Francis Cabrini Housing Project.
Yeah.
That was the low rises.
Right.
And there's
Right.
photographs of my street,
Yes,
Mohawk
in
Street,
the-
in the book.
yeah.
Cabrini Green came later.
That's
in
right,
the
those
day.
big high-rises came
that
later.
was,
I'm sorry,
I was
yeah.
out of there by then.
Right.
We had moved to another part of Chicago, and then that area started changing, and then we moved to a suburb, southwest suburb.
Right. So what was it like growing up and not having a lot? But your parents, what did they teach you
I didn't
that
know
really
I didn't have a
influenced you?
lot.
Yeah.
Well, I remember, what did they teach me? I'll tell you what my dad told me. He looked at me in the face and he says, son, the world doesn't owe you a damn thing. You're going to have to work for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I should be held accountable for all my decisions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you made that bad decision, deal with it. And so that's the kind of upbringing I had.
Right.
And he was... he was a disciplinarian.
I know you talk about that.
Yeah,
in the
he took
book,
the belt to me many times, and I deserved every bit of it.
Yeah. You know, you and your wife Sharon have been married, what, 60 years?
Oh, it's going next October will be 60 years. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah. How incredible. And what a journey you guys have had. Yeah, incredible.
No, it has been a journey. I mean, and we've been all over the world. We've been very fortunate, and I thank the big guy every day, every morning.
Yeah. So, you know, you spent some time in the Marines.
Yes.
And right out of high school.
Right. 7 days after I graduated high school. I graduated high school on June 3rd, and I enlisted in the Marine Corps June 10th.
Yeah. And you talk about that experience and how it was a huge influence on changing a lot of your thoughts and, you know, just sort of your method.
I think every young man should go in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. So tell us a little about that experience and what did change for you? Because you said you weren't sure, you were sort of not sure what to do with your life, but the Marine Corps sort of solidified.
Well, the Marine Corps taught me a lot. As a matter of fact, I've used a lot of the my business ideas that I learned in the Marine Corps, business ideas such as the value of organization. I have a great group in the office. I mean, you have to have that foundation.
Right.
The value of teamwork and the value of training. We had, when I sold the company, we had over 4,000 employees in 4 states. I needed to have teamwork in order for that to be successful.
Sure.
Right? An idea is one thing. Executing that idea consistently and efficiently is a whole new different ball game. And you need teamwork for that. I learned the value of teamwork. So the value of organization, the value of teamwork, and the value of training, all which are 3 great points in the United States Marine Corps.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting when you do go to one of the locations, everybody seems to be working so well together, but they're enjoying it. I think
that's training too.
It's training too, but you can see they're just a well-oiled machine.
Yeah,
they
do
it very well.
Yeah, well, I always wanted it to be fun. Number 1, you're the one. Number 2, this is for you. And you know, I was waiting in line one time at one of the stores, and I think it might have been the one in Naperville, if I'm not mistaken, many years ago. And there was a lot of people waiting in line to pick up their order. And I heard them say, "Thank you, have a nice day. Thank you, have a nice day. Thank you, have a nice day. Thank you." Golly, this sounds boring. It doesn't sound like it's coming from the heart. Mm-hmm. There's no energy there. There's no excitement there. So I says, "Get together, team. How about this? Number 1, you're the one. Let's rhyme things and all that like that. Hey, let's have some fun back there, okay? Yeah. It's hard work. It's stressful because when you have 30, 40, 50 people in front of you, waiting for their order all the time, you're going to be stressed. How do you undo that stress? Have a little fun. Maybe get some smiles on their faces and all that. Relax, chill. Just if you're trained right and understand your position and understand what the customer is expecting from you and understand your job description, that's half the battle. And take that and then have a little fun with it, okay? Yeah, all the customers might not appreciate it, but the majority of them do.
The majority will, yeah, yeah. So 1963, it's the first Doghouse, Villa Park.
5th.
Yeah. And so why hot dogs? What made you decide on hot dogs?
I was born and raised in the city, and in Chicago, they had a hot dog stand on every corner. I think even today, if I'm right, a friend of mine, Jim Bodman, he's the president of Vienna Sausage Company, said there was over 2,000 hot dog stands in the Chicago places that sell hot dogs, not necessarily hot dog stands, because the correct definition of a hot dog stand is where you stood up to eat the hot dog, no seating. Right. That's why they called it hot dog stand. But over 2,000 places that sold hot dogs in the Chicago metropolitan area. when I moved to the suburbs, Villa Park, there wasn't anything out there. And the part of Villa Park that I moved to was, Villa Park is an older community, but the part that I moved to was a newer part of the older Villa Park. And I looked around and it was all people from Chicago. And I thought, and there's nowhere to get a hot dog around. There was one little place, but he didn't. It was terrible. So I thought, there's a demand. I believe there's a demand here for it. But that's part of it. But remember, I said the idea is one thing. Executing that idea is another thing, because I didn't know how to steam a hot dog.
Right, and that's a great part. I love that part in the book where you talk about how you would share and try to do stuff in your apartment.
I made so many mistakes, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And I people have told me, and I don't want to sound like a jerk, but people said, well, Mr. P, everything you touch turns to gold. That's not true. I made a lot of mistakes. And at the very beginning, I remember my wife says, her and I were there making hot dog. We didn't know what we were doing. We never had a trial run. We did it backwards. You know, we opened up and then started learning. And she says, Dick, this is embarrassing. This is real embarrassing. We got to close. Close. So it was a learning process. I made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, but you in the book, one of the chapters you have is, mistakes. That's how you learn.
Mistakes is sometimes the best education you can make.
That's right.
We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes in life. I don't know anybody that can say I've gone through my entire life, a businessman or non-businessman, and said I know a lot of businessmen that are very successful, and they said, boy, look at this. They don't know the journey from square one, or number one up. They don't know that journey. Had some mistakes. They made mistakes. They made some errors.
Right. That is the best way to learn. That is for sure. You talk a lot about competition. You mentioned earlier in this business, and what did you learn from the competition? What to do and what not to do?
Well, I was watching what they were doing wrong, and I didn't want to do it.
Right.
Yeah, people think in the restaurant business, all you have to do is go in there and sell some good food and say thank you and get the money. You have to create an air, an energy that nobody else has. And that's what I had to do. I was against McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, and all that. They had hundreds of millions of dollars. I had $1,100 in a hot dog stand with no running water or bathroom. I had to do something different. That fear, sometimes fear is good. It helps get your juices creative, get creative juices. And that's what I found. The more fear that I had, the more my mind, I have a little bit of a learning disability, and I take that as sometimes as an advantage and not necessarily a disadvantage, because Henry Ford had it during this, Richard Branson, Steve Jobs, Steven Spielberg. I mean, many people have that and have had learning disability as well. So I look at that in my particular case as an advantage and not necessarily a disadvantage. Because I thought differently.
You think out of the box, and that's what makes it different.
If you want to be like everybody else in business, don't expect anything different than everybody else has got. You have to do something different. The American people today, I believe, we're spoiled. All the American people are spoiled. We want things fast. We want energy. We want excitement. We want something different all the time. We want something that's going to stimulate the brain. Most of us. Most people. Not everybody. And that's what I thought the American people wanted. So when I started building these restaurants, I tried to put a lot of excitement in the design of those restaurants. When you walk into a Portillo's, look around. And then maybe go across the street or whatever and go into a McDougal's or McDonald's or whatever the name is. And,
I know
or Wendy's or Chipotle's. And try to see, what's the difference between that Portillo's and the place I just walked in? Excitement, energy, experience.
And I love what you have on all over the walls, no matter what location. And I read you went to a lot of Kane County flea markets.
I was there every week, first weekend of the month.
Oh, that's great.
In the rain or shine. In the wintertime, I'd go there in a snowmobile suit. I'd be sometimes one of the few people that were there, buying a lot of what my wife called junk.
But the junk really helps make unique places. So I always wanted to ask you. I was down. My husband and I took a trip down to Key West. This is a number of years ago, and we went to the Hemingway house. And there's a picture of you on the wall. in Ernest Hemingway's home in Key West.
Yeah, I was with that fellow by name.
So tell us how that, of course, that leads to sort of the Key Wester restaurant you had here in
Right.
Naperville.
Right.
Yeah,
That picture's still there? When were you there?
Oh, this is probably maybe 8-9 years ago, maybe.
I was told that they lost it or it faded or something like that, but it was there for many years.
Yeah.
I was in Cuba in February of 1996.
Okay.
And I was doing some research on Hemingway, and I just wanted to see what Cuba was like.
Yeah.
And I hired a guide. Castro had realized that there was a lot of potential money to be made with tourism because people were coming in from Europe. And my guide's name was Juan Carlos. He was a professor at the university, spoke 5 languages.
Oh, wow.
And he had a van, and he was giving a tour. He was a very good tour guide. Hated Castro, by the way. And we're driving down some of Hemingway's old haunts. He liked to tip a few, so he was very well known in most every bar in Havana.
Right.
And we passed by one of his places called La Terraza. That was a bar that he frequented. And I took some pictures in there, and we're driving down the street, and I see this old man walking with a cane. And the driver says, "You see that old man?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's Hemingway's captain." I says, "Gregorio Fuentes?" He says, "Do you know him?" I said, "No, but I know of him. I know everything about Hemingway. I've read so many books on him in his past." Stop. And I grabbed the steering wheel, foolishly. I was so excited, I grabbed the steering wheel in the middle of the street. And I stopped. So I ran out, and I ran up to Gregorio, and I says, "Excuse me, my name is Dick Portillo. I'd like to interview. I'll be more than happy to pay you. I'd like to interview and put you on a screen in one of my bars." I had a bar called Hemingway's Bar.
Yeah, okay.
Had a couple of them. And I said, "Get in the van, I'll take it." No. He said, "I live right over here." So I went in there and talked to him. And I took a picture with him. And then on the way back to Naples, that's where my boat was from, we stopped in Key West and went to Hemingway's house. And I talked to the curator, and I told him that I had a picture of myself and Gregorio Fuentes. And he said, "He's still alive?" "Yeah, very alive and kicking." And I said, "Would you put it in here if I have it developed?" He said, "Yeah."
Oh, that's so cool.
That's
no,
how
because
that's
I could not believe it when I see it. Here's a picture of Dick Portillo in Hemingway's home in Key West. Oh, what a great story.
Yeah.
I didn't, I assumed that you had to be a huge Hemingway fan.
Oh, yeah. Well, Hemingway, interesting guy. He wrote on the experiences that he had, right? For Who the Bells Told, Old Man in the Sea. By the way, the Old Man in the Sea was Gregorio Fuentes.
Well, that's what I thought. Yeah,
that was Gregorio Fuentes. And I thought, I'm building restaurants on stuff that I've seen, that I like, that I appreciate. The one down on Jefferson Street here in Naperville is a Colorado mining thing. Well, my son Michael, my oldest one, went to college in Colorado. And when I go visit him, I got interested in the ghost town. I love to read history. And I started reading about ghost towns. And so I would go up the mountains and look at the ghost towns, take pictures. And I said, I'm going to build a restaurant around mining. So I would buy a lot of junk, ship it to the here. And I was building this. I would put the stuff in there. The lanterns that are in there were all gas lantern, fire, and I had to have them rewired. And all the buckets and stuff that is in there, I got in the mountains of, most of it. And then I got an old wagon that did not come from the mountains. There's an old wagon suspended from the ceiling. Right. And I got that in Indiana and put something mining company on it. Yeah. And I thought, well, the wagon alone isn't interesting enough. I need a horse. I need a horse to pull the wagon. So I thought maybe I'd get a horse that pull a stuffed horse or something made out of foam or maybe a stuffed horse pulling the wagon. And I thought, I don't think anybody likes sitting under a horse eating a sandwich. So I called my sign guy, and I said, "Rob, can you make a horse with the legs moving with neon like that?" Like, "Yeah, sure." So that's how that happened.
Yeah, that's so great. So tell the Key Wester though was another part, like your Hemingway.
I got that in Key West.
So So, what would you say? And I know you mentioned this in the book, but your biggest regrets from your life building Portillo's to what it is today?
Not spending enough time with the kids.
Right. And I know you tell your employees, and you make sure that they do that.
Well, yeah. When I was in charge there, I gathered all the supervisors and everybody, and I said, look, if your daughter has a pom-pom game or a cheerleader game, if your son's playing basketball, football, soccer, or whatever, you will go. This guy will take your place. And when his kid goes somewhere, you'll take his place. Because if you don't, you're going to live to regret it, and I speak from experience.
Yeah. It's a good thing to tell people. That's right. So what are you most proud of, do you think, of what you've built? And
well, I think I've asked that question a lot. I would say a couple of things. One is the amount of jobs that we've created in this country. People might say, well, what do you mean jobs? Guys making $10, $15 an hour making hot dogs. Not so. We build a restaurant. You've got carpenters, electricians, plumbers, glass guys, cement guys, asphalt guys, HVAC guys, roofers, right? Equipment people, okay? Right. Then, the amount of stuff that we buy, cups, lids, bags, straws. Somebody has to make those, somebody has to deliver them. Sure. The buns, there's bakers. We keep a lot of bakers really busy. And we keep a lot of bakers
locally
driving to deliver. Really busy.
And Toronto, you work with Toronto.
Yeah. John Toronto, he's a friend of mine, good guy. He's going to be one of the largest bakers in the country one of these days.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Because of his passion, the way he handles business, and he's got a great attitude towards business, and he's a good friend of mine.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So what do you hope readers will take away from reading Out of the Doghouse?
Well, I hope they find it interesting. That's always a fear because, like I mentioned earlier, I know my wife and maybe my kids will enjoy it, but will the public enjoy it?
I think they will.
Like I say, it's not going to be a Pulitzer Prize-winning book, but it is a life story, memoirs of a young couple, naive couple, that started out with nothing and did something with their life, and they were able to give their children and grandchildren opportunities that they never had.
Right. And you have a great grandchild now.
3.
3? Oh my God! I cannot believe that. I cannot believe that.
I'm going to teach them to call me Uncle Dick.
Well, Dick, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sitting down. And congratulations on your debut book, Out in the World.
Thank you very much.
Great conversation with restaurant icon Dick Portillo and his debut book. It's called Out of the Doghouse, his story of success and making great food and service. This book will make you drool. Get some Portillos and sit down and enjoy. Thanks for joining me on Authors Revealed.